So the last few months, I've been making some pretty familiar characters into some fully posable dolls. And of course, I couldn't let the last season of Stranger Things go by without making one of Netflix's most iconic villains. Vecna's body is far from normal, but using this male body I made from a previous project will help save me a lot of time. I need to break the torso down back to a basic shape again, so then I can build it back up with all those textures. For this, I'm mainly using Blender's Draw Tool and Clay Strip Tool. Not a spoiler, as I'm sure we've all seen Vecna's new look at this point, but I thought it was hilarious that a good portion of fans thought the same thing when Vecna finally made his grand entrance in episode 4. He came waltzing in with his waist slim and nails done, and making sure to capture all his hard work in his doll form. Because his skin is really detailed, I'm not aiming for it to be 100% accurate. I still want him to feel like Vecna though, so like with all my other projects, I'm bringing in some references. I found these images from what I'm assuming is the model that they use for the actual show from this page on Instagram. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but feel free to geek out in the comments. What are you excited to see this season, and whose survival are you praying for? Even though it's really sad to see such a well-made series end, I know it's 5 seasons, but it's still sad. I'm really excited to see how they tie the whole story together. I mean, just think about it. I'm a junior in college, and this show started when I was in elementary school. Just let that sit in for a minute. It's been a while. If you're familiar with the channel, then you know I just had a whole bunch of fun making this doll because I just let myself go crazy with the sculpting. Scraping things down and then building it back up in pretty much any way that felt right. Even though he looks really complicated at first glance, I break him down into basically 3 layers, I guess you can say. Making his body in one piece would just be really limiting and force your brain to twist in ways it doesn't really need to. Jointing doll hips usually takes me a while, but the work was pretty much all done this time since I'm using a body I jointed a while back. But even with this being easier than usual, his rump gave me a little bit of a problem when I printed it out, which you'll see in the next video, but fortunately it was just an easy fix. I'm doing a lot of sculpting and a lot of detail work in here, but I plan on adding even more detail later once the pieces are printed out. I'm printing the majority of this guy's body with a filament printer, which even though it will do an awesome job, it won't capture every single line of detail I did, which I'm fine with for the most part, but when spots look a little sparse, that's when the epoxy will jump in and allow me to sculpt in more details. His spikes are super easy, I just make them out of stretched out spheres. Even though I'm most likely going to support these with epoxy sculpt later, this gives me a super nice structure to build on top of. Moving on to the arms. Looking at the references, there's a few things I have to translate into the doll. First off, his arms are really thin and kind of look like a skeleton in some sections. The second thing is, one of his arms, the arm with the monster hand attached, is of course bigger than the other. And finally, a reminder that I have to avoid symmetry as much as possible. Here I'm showing a bit more of the process of how I formed the arms around the joints that I made. A few of you mentioned being interested in watching a series where I go into more detail about how I make ball jointed dolls from start to finish, so until that series is made, I figured this would be a helpful little point to leave in this time around. For me, doll joints are probably the hardest part to figure out when making a ball jointed doll. You not only have to take in consideration how the joint will function, but you also have to think about how you want the joint to look when it moves and as it's posed. I've used this joint system for quite a while now, but honestly I never stopped looking at ways to make them better. To make sure I don't miss that skeleton look, I'm using a piece of a skeleton I found off of Thingiverse and merging it into the lower arm. This was really fun and I'm definitely going to want to do this for future dolls. From this point, the rest of the arms and legs are pretty much the same thing as the torso. Lots and lots of detail. And finally, the part I'm most excited to work on, his face. For a rough layout, I'm using this guy, the guy who plays Vecna, as my reference. This part doesn't have to be perfect at all because I'm going to destroy most of it. I'm only doing this to start off with a similar point to the makeup artist on the actual Stranger Things set. In my mind, this is just going to help make the final result resemble the original a bit more. Over the years, I first thought Vecna's voice was just heavily edited, but to learn that the actor actually constructed the voice himself is insane. Like, what do you mean you just whipped out a whole new voice? This part will be printed out of resin, so I'm spending a little extra time putting in as many of those details as I can. I'm thinking next year I'll pick a few random images from Pinterest or something and make some really cool monsters from them. I don't know, just to do a bit more of this random skin-like weird sculpting. Really had fun with this. Let me know what you might want to see in the comments, but let me tell you, what I have planned for next year, no one is ready for. In the meantime though, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful Christmas, stay sweet, and I'll see you all very soon because in the next video, we're going to make this guy into a full doll.